who is a member of the team, and what is the purpose of the team. So here we are aiming for clarity.
I sort of feel like we're on this common mission here, and I really have been energized and excited about this weekend, because in each of these conversations I feel like
Our presentation today starts with 5 words, which 49 years ago have casted the world in fear and hope, which are still a symbol of the unexpected that calls for urgent action, which for free men and their families meant 1 week struggle for life or death. These 5 words are, Houston, we have a problem. How many of you have worked on a project which have an unexpected change? Okay? And how many of you, this message comes from somebody remote, not same location? Okay, that's the conference. I heard the statement, Houston, we have a problem, many times in my career. Hopefully, luckily it was not life and death, like in this situation, but for the project it was quite critical. In the last 25 years, 20 of them I was a corporate animal. So I was running big corporate teams for a big multinational FMCG. I was running the project delivery team for Europe. Then I was head of IT services for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I had a team of 100 plus employees and XXX outsourcing partners. And from my victories, but mainly from my mistakes, I developed a highly effective method called virtual power teams. You would say, what is highly effective? For example, we delivered a 2-year project involving 20 countries in Europe, 3 months earlier, and we saved 250,000 euros. Now, last 5 years, I decided to follow my dream job, being an inspirational speaker, and I work with more than 100 companies. Initially, 80% of them are multinationals, like the Lufthansas of the world, which many of you probably spent some time there, like IKEAs and BASF and so on. But in the last 2 years, I've noticed a trend, like working with scaling companies. Like, how many of you come from a company which is more than 100 employees? Okay? So yesterday, that's probably around 25% of the audience right now. So for those companies, when they start going remote, or initially they have one location, but in the talent war, they get new talent and they open office in another location, sometimes in another country, and sometimes they struggle with the middle management. This is the weakest link. Sometimes the managers, tend to over-control, being an expert, being promoted. Sometimes they lose control. So here, I'm helping with virtual power teams to strengthen this middle, for instead of a weak link, become a strong link. And how many of you come from a company which is 20 plus employees? Okay, so probably the same people, probably 20 plus is the majority. I mean, here, usual scenario is it starts with the co-located team, the founders, but then once you reach 20 plus, you start to recruiting the best experts, regardless where they happen to be in the world. And then this migration, this transition from being co-located towards hybrid and maybe at some point in time going fully remote, that requires some systems, some management kind of and leadership model. And this is exactly what I was, what I kind of systemized with the virtual power teams. Now, from all these experiences that I had with these large teams and then with these 100 plus customers, I can tell that the virtual teams is like an atom, where you have the nucleus, and then you have various particles flying around. In a virtual team, we aim to retain the gravity despite the distance. The gravity between the individual team members, individual particles, which in this case are the team members, towards the nucleus. But the nucleus is not the manager, it's not the founder, it is the purpose and the goal of the team. So you will see we'll put a special emphasis to putting the goal and the purpose of the team bottom up, so everyone can identify with it. And this is then the gravity center, this is the nucleus, which pulls the team together. Now, I've summarized all my experiences in a book, and for my delight, it's been translated, that was in 2017, October. By now it's translated in 5 languages, and Chinese edition is coming up this year. And just for a week, it was Amazon top 3 in the international management category. So it was only a week, but I keep this snapshot very dearly to my heart. And let me ask you a question. We all hear remote. The question is the following. If we define a virtual team or remote team in more than one location, not necessarily 100% remote, which many of you are. How many of you are 100% remote? No office at all. Perfect. Okay, so you don't have 20 plus, but you are 100% remote. So if we define a virtual team a little bit broader, also involving the multinational with their global teams and the mid-size, what do you think? How many in percentage are the virtual teams in the global environment? Give me a number. 70%, okay? 95, okay? One more? 5%, okay. 70%? My friend from White Russia, Zhenya, you got a book? Okay, I can sign it for you later on.
I'm from Belarus.
From Belarus, White Russia, Belarus, but Belarus is the right. Many from Belarus I kind of met these 2 days. Now, the answer, as I said, is, or I didn't say, 81%. According to Forrester Research, 4 years old study, I guess now they are a bit more, 81%. In more than one time zone, 60%. So we're getting more dispersed, more distributed, more remote. Now, my presentation is structured in 3 parts. When I say my, it's our presentation. Ben will step up in the culture part. But the 3 parts are the following. If we imagine a virtual team or remote team as a human being, the first part of the presentation is the head. So this is the logical part, the cognitive part. And here we are taking care who is a member of the team and what is the purpose of the team. So here we are aiming for clarity. The second part, if this is the head, the second part is like the body, the muscles and the bones. So here we'll be talking about structured communication. In a poorly led teams, sometimes the manager calls a conference and then he dominates the discussion. If there is a problem, stands up finger pointing, and we will do it in such a way that the communication, the recurring meetings are structured in such a way that everyone is having his own time slot, so everyone can contribute and shine. So here we're aiming for the structured communication. And the last part, the third part, my favorite, is the heart of this human being. So here we will be establishing the optimal virtual culture. And the 10 big rocks, the virtual power team comprises the 10 big rocks. So these are the 10 success factors broken down into 3 groups, which help you to retain the gravity, despite the distance, despite the cultural differences, despite the time zones, and unleash the team power. Now, everyone here remote, give me a feeling. How do you feel in your remote team? What's the first emotion that comes to mind or to heart in this case? Freedom, yes. Work whenever you like. Work wherever you like. Freedom, empowerment. My first, as a corporate animal, as I said, my first emotion back in 2000 was dominated by frustration. So I hope you don't make this mistake. By that time, I was a project manager, part of the team of 30 project managers. And we had once a year a face-to-face meeting. Our boss was based in London. And then once a month, we had a phone conference, back 2000. And on these meetings, mainly our boss has spoken. He presented various KPIs and business results. Rarely we were invited to present. And if so, that was without a clear goal, without a clear long-term goal. And after the meeting, without clear recognition. So after such meetings, we rarely spoke to each other and even less helped each other. The only help came from some altruists, and that was not recognized by our manager. So it was frustration and pain for us as well as for our manager. And from this experience, I know that poorly led virtual teams, they lose gravity over time. Their team members get lost in space, and that deteriorates the team performance. And as a master of mathematics, which is my background, I cannot leave you without one graphic today. So I asked myself the question, how can you retain the gravity? And hopefully this doesn't fall. We just improvised, and thank you, Igor, for being so responsive. If this is the time axis that you probably remember from school, and this is the performance axis, poorly led virtual teams, they lose gravity over time, and their performance deteriorates. So I asked myself the question, how can you retain the gravity and improve performance? Oops, okay, virgin pen. After a specific point, even exponentially. So those teams that manage to do that, I call virtual power teams. Now let's see how we can build those. What are the 10 big rocks that would give you a system to make your remote teams remote power teams? Now, by the way, I'm a father of 5 girls. No joke. 1 wife, 1 marriage, 5 girls. Apparently, this is the only thing I can. Tried long enough. So, and currently everybody's at home. They're like 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15 years old. So very cuddling period, 3 teenagers, a bit tough. But this This year, the 15-year-old go to California for the 6-month student exchange, so we'll become a virtual family. So my next book project, share with you, would be the virtual power family, cracking the code of, I share a bit personal. We heard today personal. Every time I was appointed as a manager of a team, or now as a coach, the first day I get in charge, as Adi put it, the first day, start the culture, first day, I invite the people to present themselves with a lifeline. This is the line from the date of birth, and then you put here your highlights, your moments of excellence, the moments that you are most proud of, but also the moments where you struggled and nevertheless managed to overcome. Find strength with the help of your friends. So if you invite, how many of you have done a lifeline? Just plot it for yourself? Okay, excellent. Not very many. I'll tell you what's the outcome of this exercise. So if you invite your team members to present themselves from this perspective, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed, first of all, how much they have achieved by their highlights, but also, by their lowlights. Every one of us had difficult moments, and when you share this vulnerability, it's built, so on one hand, from the highlights, you find out what makes the heart of each and everyone sink, and this is very powerful. Not just you as a founder who probably recruit and ask some questions, but everyone about everyone. We do this in an open format. And from the lowlights, opening this vulnerability, you create a safe place to share, and you build this, you seed the seeds of these interpersonal relationships. And you will see in the structured communication, we remain and retain these relationships. So in each team, the key success factor is trust. We heard a lot of trust for these 2 days, yesterday, Andreas, and so on. From my perspective, trust is a function of two things. One is personality, how deep and how well they know each other as individuals. And second is professional competence, how good are they in their professional field as experts. And I would do it, normally the lifelines will like, the black color will be the personal lifeline, and the red one will be the professional lifeline. And if you, as a manager or as a leader, you provide time and space for these two aspects to unfold, you build trust. And this is the fundament for your success as a team. Now, we said, again, Mariano yesterday, picture is more than 1,000 words, we know it. And when I work with the scale-ups, 20 plus, sometimes they don't have budget even for a once-a-year face-to-face. We use pictures very heavily. So this is Oscar, lives in Madrid and weighs 9 kilos. So a real monster. If somebody, I would invite them to present themselves with a picture which they identify with, a single one, and they present it. Again, you will find out, and each of your team members, then they wouldn't hesitate, to pick up the phone, not just Slack, and communicate with this person. It could be like they have templates, Mariano, you may have me in images, could be a bit more, but leverage on the pictures, very powerful, from Facebook and so on. Now, first one is personality in focus. Second big rock is strength matrix. I'm a big fan of strengths-orientated management, which is strengthening the strengths, as we heard today from Abi. You can improve exponentially, or not developing the weaknesses, just leave it there. I mean, if you strengthen your strengths, and that's another vulnerability. You would say, I'm not good at that. You would ask somebody from the team for help. And this creates further team atmosphere. It fosters the gravity of the team. So how to build the strengths? It is a process. I would ask them to list their strengths. For those of them who struggle, there are like 5 questions that the simplest format I'll share with you in a moment. For those of them who come with 100 strengths, I explained this is not a strength competition. We will use it for additional roles and responsibilities. And there is a system behind that. I wouldn't go now, but Q&A we could cover. But these are the 5 questions. What is easy and fun to do in your job? And people will peer coach each other. So this is another. You strengthen the links and interpersonal. What was your biggest success so far? What are people coming to you and asking for help? And if you ask your best friend, what is your biggest strength, what would he say, or she? And then you ask, from everything I've heard, what is your biggest strength? And then you're allowed to say and give external perspective, I think from everything I've heard, this is your biggest strength. So everyone ends up with at least 2 strengths. And then there will be, in a round, everyone will announce his top strength. And by doing this kind of ritual, people start feeling special. In a poorly led virtual teams, they just feel anonymous, like a resource bringing particular skill set. Here you come with your natural talents and natural strengths. So you proudly announce, you feel a bit like a hero, and when everybody hears everyone else's strength, it emerges a strong team spirit. Yes, we can. With this mix of skills, we could achieve almost every vision, every goal we set to ourselves. The third one is interdependent goals. So how many of you work on a project where you give everything, but some other team members are not so motivated? Okay? Now, in a virtual environment, in a remote environment, this to happen is even less, even more likely to happen. It takes me not to pick up the phone every time I can, or delay some emails, or delay some Slack response, and here I'm frustrating some other team members. And in order to tackle this scenario, like hiding behind the virtual corner, I would break down the vision of the team annually in as many goals, as many people you have on the leadership team. When I say leadership team, it is a bit corporate, because you have a manager and his direct reports, and that's the leadership team. But you could apply it for your core team as a founder. And we will do it in such a way that everyone is having his or her own strategic goal. There is a process, it's described in the book. We will discover the 3 hottest topics of the team. Regardless how smart you are as an entrepreneur, the more remote is your team, the more locations are involved, the less aware are you what are the really 3 hottest topics or opportunities. So it is a bottom-up process in a breakout groups, works live, works also with shared whiteboards online. We discover the 3 hottest topics, we convert them into the SMART goals, and then we build roadmaps physically on the floor or on a shared whiteboard. And then there is no delegation, people voluntarily choose what milestone, what sub-goal I take, and they argument it with their strengths. So we make sure it's a voluntary choice, and then this is their strength area. The more you work in your strength area, the more joy you have, the more you are in flow. So everyone from the core team ends up with his or her annual strategic goal, and you will see how in the structured communication we follow this up. How many of you know what is MOOC? Okay, yeah. Massive open online course. Now, I have a client in New York, he runs MOOCs, and he has 35,000 people subscribing to his MOOC. And he's actually teaching modern architecture, but on a case study. He's building resilient schools for Philippines. So after the tsunami destroyed infrastructure in the Philippines, maybe some of you were impacted, the government decided to build a school in such a resilient way, so there will be a school in a normal time, but in a time of disaster, they could provide shelter for the people. And he was giving advice and tips with a lot of pre-recorded videos how to do that. But his problem was dropout rate. It was six weeks course. After the 5th week, people were just learned enough for free dropping out. Because he was getting his money in the end when people successfully finish the project, get it signed off, and get their certificate. He tried to move the payment in advance. He got only 2,000 subscribing. So we discussed with his team, and what we did was very simple, actually. We've broken down this 35,000 in the groups of 5. Not us, self-organizing. They get together based on proximity and time zones and so on. And in this team of 5, they presented themselves with their lifeline. Each one sharing. And then they discovered their strengths in a peer coaching. And then instead of everyone doing his own project, they did one project as a team of 5. And after the week 5 came, they just couldn't let their teammates down. There was already so much gravity, and that they were dependent on them. So, in fact, he got 22,000 people subscribing, which resulted in almost 500,000 revenue increase with a simple intervention. So personality in focus, discovering the strengths, set the agenda bottom up, simple thing, good result. By the way, the presentation, there are some questions for self-reflection, self-coaching. Feel free to kind of go through this exercise yourself. Now, we covered this one. The more, because you may have like core team of 5, 7, 10 people, and you break down the strategy in so many goals, they're interdependent, like tooth whales. The more interdependent they are, the less you can deliver alone, the more you need teams. So this fosters the gravity of the team. Second part, the body, before Ben comes, structured communication. So how we ensure, in the end of this 2 days workshop, which would be the foundation workshop for setting up virtual power team, I asked him, so how often do we meet? And often, particularly in the corporate world, they say once a month, isn't it? Because they have their own team, they have direct reports. I would challenge him and say, let's start once a week. And if this is too much, we will adjust. How many of you have taken part in a phone conference? I guess it's a rhetoric question. How many of you have felt bored in a phone conference? Probably a bit more hands. Now, the antidote to boredom is not what you see or what you hear in this call, but what you do. So I do it in a way, agenda in advance, that everyone is having his slot. And here we will be starting with by the way, these are the next 2 big rocks, knowledge management and regular feedback. I wouldn't touch in detail, but happy to cover. Regular feedback, big on one-on-one, as Zach was telling today, for career development, performance approval, and so on. Make sure it's in the calendar. Now, As I said, weekly call, not a panacea. The team has to decide, but a bit more often helps. Everyone starts with a 2-minute personal update. And they share, like, what is my result, in half marathon from the last weekend, or how it tastes, red wine from Chile, Reserve 96. So it's very personal. It's like the spice. Not more than 2 minutes. And then they go in a structured way. My formula, and again, it is what have I achieved, high level. Every detail is in the pre-read for the meeting. What stays in my way? Who can help me out? So you just flag, you show a little bit vulnerability, people will say, okay, I can really help you out. After the meeting, they go on and collaborate. Once a month, and again, could be like twice a month, it is formal. So here is the core team. Here, I would invite core team per video, because you know very well running a global, everyone remote, it's difficult. As Marcy was saying today, 11 a.m. Eastern time is a great time if you have a global team and headquarters in the US. Headquarters in Europe, they would run it like 11 a.m., whatever, English time. But if you do this, you have to rotate. You don't have to penalize the same people every time. But once a month, it is a video conference, so everyone takes part from the leadership per video. And then I would invite the next organizational layer, their direct reports, if you have hierarchy. Or if it's like a smaller startup, you can invite here your key partners or key interfaces. And here, remember, everyone is having a strategic goal from the interdependent goals. So here, everyone presents with a pre-read, with a one-pager, which is submitted in advance, where I am with my strategic goal. And here, the next organizational layers or your key partners can ask questions on the chat. And in the last 10 minutes, we always allow for answering these questions. So not to be bored to death, we allow some interaction here. And the secret here of this structured communication is personal and professional, so you always have these 2 minutes updates. Here we don't have any personal, and then formal and informal. You need some formality in order to make progress. And then strict time management. For me, the formula was for like 10 people team, 1.5 hours here with the personal updates. Here you may have up to 100 with their direct reports, 2 hours. And the more remote is your team, the more you have to consciously allow time for personal updates. So I'm fully with Zach, who says, half of their time is for personal updates, and then he has twice a year. I fully echo that, because fully remote teams, they need to connect as individuals. You need to provide this time. Some other questions for self-coaching? Now, before Ben, one graphic, mathematician, but last math piece for today, a formula. I have formula for everything, including for storytelling. But for the virtual power team formula, looks like this. P plus V plus I divided by S. Any guesses? I'll just move on. P is personality. We know, you can reach to the best experts on the world, providing you can have a strong gravity. V, in this case, is vision, is also my wife's name, a little bit tailor-it, but it stands for you have to look in the same direction. As I said, purpose and goals, do it bottom-up as a team. I is not innovation, I is intimacy. So all these lifelines, all these big personal updates, sharing the weekly highlights and so on, you need this. I mean, you don't have just experts on your team. In order to really go exponential, people have to connect on a heart-to-heart level. S, the less the better, because it's divided, it is self or ego. In the corporate world, many senior managers have their hidden agendas. Agenda that facilitates their career progression, their bonus scheme. So they develop their hidden agenda. Here, we put a lot of emphasis that we set the goal as a team. And then everybody picks his own goal, and we have a big rock for recognition. So with a lot of recognition, you don't have to develop your hidden agenda. So this is the way that we kill the ego factor and we foster the we factor as a team. Now, I'd like to invite Ben, who will give us a case of a 100% remote company, 200 plus people, which have developed a unique culture. Please welcome Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. I started programming when I was 11, and I think what that helped me understand is the potential of people and technology. If you think about it, there's a lot of challenge in the world, in the environment, for pretty much all of us, and we're thinking forward to our families and kids. What's the future of AI, and what impact will that have in our lives? And I'd like to think that in terms of where this is going, people that solve problems, people that use technology to collaborate and work more effectively remotely, and to do that on a global scale. Well, I think we've actually, at this event at Running Remote, I sort of feel like we're on this common mission here, and I really have been energized and excited about this weekend, because in each of these conversations, I feel like we're all going to play a part in making a huge impact in the world. So what I want to share with you is just a little bit about XTeam. I'm actually new to XTeam, but I've known them, the guys, the teams, the people all around the world. An amazing, diverse culture and diverse group of people. So like yourselves, it actually it starts with a spark, sometimes an idea, an individual, someone with a vision. And XTeam then has really been a movement around that vision, which is to make an impact. And I'd have to say it's amazing at a cultural level to be joining this organisation and to share with you the excitement, I'd say it's contagious actually, a bit like the goosebumps you feel along your arms and down your legs sometimes. It's sort of feeling that even though you're not in the same room, you can still feel a connection. You can still feel the human relationship and empathise. And in an organisation that is spread across 40 plus countries, it's something that I think uniquely we as a movement can share back to the traditional working world. And I think that's the opportunity that Peter and I are both very excited about. So what I might do, having shared a little bit about my background and why I'm excited to be with XTeam, I might get not only our CEO just on a video to share a little bit about what we do as a team of developers across 40 countries in the world. And we've been doing that for 13 years now. And I'm very proud to say we started out of Melbourne, Australia. So there's a few of us here from Australia. But again, we're all one team, right? So I'll kick this off.
Drive our projects forward, right? We long for those he's on fire moments with the developers we hire, just getting constant forward progression from them. And as it turns out, the people we seek are people who constantly drive their own lives forward. They're people who are constantly exploring. They are forever forward, forever alive, as Walt Whitman put it. They are passionately curious, as Einstein once called himself. I think really what we long for are developers who can keep moving forward. We built XTeam on the belief that if you could give people the freedom and the care and the support and the energy really that they need to keep moving forward every day, that you could bring incredible impact to companies. And that's really what we've done for the past decade, building these passionately curious teams of developers for leading companies like Fox and Riot Games and Coinbase and on and on.
I think that XTeam supports their developers and their developers' capabilities and their learning so much that it actually inspires them to work even harder for the teams that they're working on. They really care about their developers, and I could tell that from the very beginning. And I feel like XTeam shows a lot of love, and in turn, that gets kind of brought back to our company as well.
You know, we've found how to help them come alive each day and really tap into that high performance energy. And when your team is made up of people who have truly come alive, there's really only one direction you can go in.
So having listened to all the amazing presentations and the inspiring insights, and I think today particularly I was particularly jazzed because on a Sunday, the second day of an event, to feel as excited and to feel the energy and some of the presentations that have been shared, I wanted to narrow down just a couple of things that I could leave you with so that my time in this short element and linking into Peter's story and insights is how important culture is. Having come into XTeam, it started with 100% trust. That trust is something that enlivens me to be anywhere in the world to do my role, which is around growth and partnerships. I feel the trust of a team distributed around the world, 40 plus countries, where we're not actually working to a time sheet or a clock. We're really motivated by solving problems, working with our partners, working with a team, and infusing that excitement into the projects we work with, and to make that impact together and with our partners. And I'd have to share, I guess, another aspect in that sort of underlies all of this, and that's community. So we ourselves are very much a community driven and motivated by learning, by growth, and that's personally growing and together. So I'll share one other insight that I think is part of that. With 13 years experience, rather than having timesheets that guide our efforts each and every day, it's actually around setting an intention, daily journaling, the tasks and the actions and the steps that we're taking, and then that daily reflection as well. And it can actually be often a lot more than just at the end of the day, but to think about what it is you're learning and what are some of the insights that if you were to share with others, looking over your shoulder and in your teams, and even the clients and partners you're going to be working with, to think about how they can learn from you. Because what we've essentially developed is this amazing hyper-learning culture. And that adds to the trust, it adds to the gravity that Peter talks about in terms of virtual power teams. And I personally am very happy to talk with you, take questions and share some of the insights further. But I appreciate all of you here, and thank you. I'm looking forward to meeting more of you as well before we wrap up.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. So, just quickly go, that's the heart that I promised. The third part, recognition. If I have one secret being, with 6 ladies at home, 5 girls and a wife, it's praise, praise, praise. So make sure you praise the results. If there are no results, praise the behavior, the team supporting behaviors. You'll be amazed. Diversity. If you have a multicultural team, like everyone remote, sometimes, you have 20 employees in 20 countries. I'll share one example quickly. There was a project, that was a global FMCG company, $1 billion project. Chinese traders were buying their goods and putting them on Alibaba in 10 countries, Australia, France, Germany, UK, Netherlands, and some others. VP Business Development tried to, spoke to the GMs, general managers in this country, say, get together, accumulate the volume, and let the Chinese GM make a deal. Nothing happened. So get organized, as Andreas said, let's set up a project. So we were in Amsterdam just for a day. Their time is very precious. And we broken down this 12-people project team from 10 different countries on 3 scales. So we did hierarchical scale, egalitarian versus hierarchical. Hierarchical, wait for permission, ask for the boss. Egalitarian, you take initiative. They choose their optimal position as a team. And in fact, they've chosen first a position which was more egalitarian, so involving the Chinese up to the project mandate, and they go more in hierarchical mode. Now go on and deliver. Second scale decision making, top-down versus consensus. Americans, quite a few in the room. If you're not quick decision maker, you're a bad leader, kind of. Top-down is very well accepted. Germany, on the other hand, hierarchical, but when it comes to decision maker, long consultation period, make a decision, quick execution. If the environment changed, the American leader may change the decision, frustrate the hell out of the Germans. So again, give them the transparency, they pick the position, they reflect what does it mean for me, what does it mean for our leader, and you establish the optimal team culture chosen by the team. Third is confrontational versus non-confrontational style. Countries like Dutch, France, they're very confrontational for the sake of the debate. It may insult some of the Asian counterparts. Once this becomes transparent, they consciously choose and commit to make a change. Team culture emerges. So in this case, they just achieved 0.1 profitability increase based on this deal. It resulted in $80 million profit. Winning spirit. I know I have probably 2 minutes. 2006, 2007, this is the 2 years project. I was running, that was a global program involving 20 countries in Europe, moving them to the global shared services unit. So IT was done locally, moving now to the global shared services. I had 2 people full-time on the team, German lady Lena, speaking 5 languages and top organized, and then Uzbek guy Jamshid, like larger-than-life individual. We have many Belarus people here. Initially, and we were supported by 5 global experts. Initially, when I got this European project, I was enthusiastic, first trips to Kuala Lumpur where the global shared services were set. But after the first 3 months, I've noticed that sometimes I'm trying to be the smartest person in the room. Not just to say what is to be done, and now I think even this is too much, but how exactly is to be done. And those were experts. So after such meetings, it was very difficult neither to push nor to motivate the people. And I said to myself, what are you doing here? Instead of being a productivity factor, I become a brain factor, and the burnout is just waiting around the corner. It has to be done differently. And while I was contemplating, Jamshid left, organized a career move, came Pilar, a Spanish lady with a red mane and a bit of a harsh voice, and she brought the fresh wind of change. So she was the one to introduce the lifeline, and I was amazed. I was stupid enough to compete with the people. I realized what caliber of talent I have in the team. So we had a workshop. For the first time, we did the lifeline. We did, for the first time, bottom-up goal setting. I was amazed by the effectiveness. It was not as streamlined as now, but it is a big cultural change. 6 months down the road, we were 5. Erwin and Mark joined. I went to the project board and suggested if we finish this 2 years project 3 months earlier, I suggested all 30 people involved in the project, 5 European experts, 5 global, and 20 part-time, we go to Tenerife, Canary Islands, for 2 days. And they accepted. Why? People cost was €1 million. If we finish 3 months earlier, we save 250, and with 50 of them, we go to Tenerife. I announced this to the team, and the the spirit changed in the middle. Particularly people from Belarus by that time and Uzbekistan were particularly happy about this reward, outstanding reward for outstanding performance. Lena came with a visual reporting, very key. Visual, we've heard photos. You need to have a one-pager which everyone can see where we are. So it was instead of the pie chart, it was an island with a palm tree. And then we have 20 parachuters for each of the countries, which milestone after milestone, they were approaching the island. Initially, it was a competition who will land first, but then it was irrelevant. Only if you all make it, then we all go to Tenerife. So day after day, the suspense has risen, and just one day before the deadline, 30th of December 2007, the last parachuter from Uzbekistan landed on the island. So we had top customer feedback, we saved 200K net, and we had a fantastic party. Now, the 10th Big Rock is next generation leader. So how can you involve your leadership talent? If you have the roadmaps, you have the leaders on the leadership team, but then you involve the next generation leaders. Now, let me know if you'd like to inspire your team or even your partners or even your clients by Keynote on the power of virtual teams, or if you want to set up the 10 Big Rocks to tune it for your reality, then we'd have to do a tailored workshop, foundation, or because it's a global audience, I'll be running virtual. If you want to get certified, a virtual power team certified master, and there is also e-learning, a self-paced learning, but the certified, there is a program in September in San Francisco, which I'll be doing 2 days live, then 1 day online, and in Slovenia, in Bulgaria, and in Germany. And in a week time, there will be an online version as well. Now, started with the universe. I started with this Apollo 13 Houston, we have a problem journey. Let's go back to the universe just for a second. Do you know that in the universe only 10% is material? 10% is planets and stars. 20% is like nothing, like the black holes or the phenomena that the scientists still cannot explain. And 70% is invisible energy, like the gravity that holds the universe together, as we know it. In a virtual team or remote team, I think it's quite similar. 10% are the team members and the infrastructure. 20% are undeveloped potentials. And 70%, the biggest part, are the relationships, the trust, the gravity that holds your remote team together. So the art to lead virtual or remote teams is to focus on the 70%. And I'm sure you will be amazed by the wonderful fruits to come. Let me conclude with one sentence before the Q&A that has guided me through the years, and it goes like this. If you dream alone, this is just a dream. If we, people, dream together, this is the beginning of a new reality. Thank you.